Welcome inside the Chamber of Truth with your co-hosts Leek and Josh. This is our new boxing platform via YouTube where all fans are welcome, casuals and purists alike. We got something for you all. So we want to give this platform the proper kickoff by starting with something that really appealed to the casual fan, which was the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul main event that happened on Netflix this past weekend in collaboration with MVP Promotions. So let's get it started there, Josh. There's a lot to unpack and break down with this one.
Absolutely.
The big issue I'm seeing is that the public and your casual fan, who may or may not be an actual boxing fan in modern times, all had eyes on this fight, and there were expectations set by these people that just were not realistic if you've been in tune with boxing. So the first topic on this. The first point of emphasis on this topic I want to get into is, what did you expect versus what did the public expect, and what did we actually see? So let me get your take on that first.
First and foremost, for anybody that thought this was a real boxing fight, you were gravely mistaken and obviously oversold. And for anybody that knows true boxing, they fought 2-minute rounds with 14-ounce gloves in only 8 rounds.
So before you continue, what does that difference in gloves mean? What should they have been fighting with?
Ladies and gentlemen, true professional boxers in the weight class that they were fighting in would have fought in 10-ounce gloves with 3-minute rounds. Now, they could have chose the kind of rounds that they want, but Jake Paul is supposed to be, some kind of, at least building up to be a world-class fighter. So he could have done 8-minute, 3 rounds, but
yeah,
that's not what took place. And then the big second point was that everybody seems to forget. Mike Tyson is how old?
58 years old.
58 years old. What man that has already fought monsters? Fought Evander Holyfield. Did people forget that? The beatings he took against James Douglas? Even the backside of his career, respectfully, Mike had a great run. Had a great hype to him. Had a great amateur career as well. Achieved and accomplished a lot and got paid, but the backside of his career was rough.
Yeah. And the sport of boxing will take a toll on you in the long run. Mike was already somebody who, by 1986, had already had 20-plus professional fights. So we're talking about someone who 30 years ago was already 20 professional fights in, let alone his amateur career. And y'all was on here expecting to see a knockout, putting your life savings on.
And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is heavyweights. The damage you take for this versus the damage you give, it's a lot.
At the end of the day, Jake Paul is not a phenom of any sort, but he is somebody who has dedicated himself for the past 4 or 5 years to training. And if you look in his corner, it's not like he's got scrubs around him. He got
absolutely.
people who know the sport of boxing. He's in Puerto Rico training. He's dedicated himself.
Now, here's the thing. Jake Paul, you have to give Jake Paul credit. Jake Paul is, I do consider him a real boxer. He has actually faced real boxers that do have somewhat, of amateur, accomplishments. And he's putting in the work, training with real trainers, and he's surrounded himself with real people with professional, high-level experience like Jalen Love. His trainer is a world-class trainer as well, and he is putting in the work. You can't knock that. The only thing is this was obviously a money grab. This fight was on Netflix, so it was going to be streamed for millions of people to watch for free. So that was going to have a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah, which is big time and something else I want to get into as well. But first, we have to give Jake Paul his credit as a marketer and a salesman, because whatever dream that y'all was buying about Mike Tyson being able to actually win this fight, he sold it. They both sold it beautifully, and they executed. And the numbers are there to show. 60 million households streamed this event. Netflix's most streamed live event in the history of their platform. And, which we'll get into later, 50 million were on there to see the co-main event, which was Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. So that's a big win for women's boxing. But we'll get into that a bit later. But going back to Jake Paul and his mastery of marketing, I think it's funny how all of these fighters these days are all taking their the platform or the style of Floyd Mayweather as it comes to moving their career and picking their fights and making it all about money. And the closest person to executing it has been Jake Paul. And he's not out here fighting for titles or any of that, because what he's done successfully is make himself a villain.
And ladies and gentlemen, for anybody that's saying he's not successful in what he's doing, let me say this. The undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world just called out Jake Paul.
Artur Beterbiev, who just won.
Beterbiev, who is a killer.
Who's a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter in the world.
Top 5. Top 3 is a little deep.
Okay, a little top 5 fighter in the world. And just won a couple weeks ago, undisputed at the light heavyweight division.
Absolutely.
So when you have people of that caliber calling you out, whether you dedicated your life to this or not, you have made an
Ladies
impact.
and gentlemen, he's a success in boxing.
Yeah.
His career, there have been fighters that have won multiple championships in different divisions who have never made a tenth of the money that Jake Paul has made.
In one night.
Unfortunate
but true. Unfortunate but true.
That's just the world. That's just this day.
Which is why I say, when Floyd pop out, he can make a mega fight out of almost anything if he chooses to.
Absolutely.
And Jake Paul is finding that ability because obviously this one was a little more monstrous because it was Mike Tyson that he had as his dance partner, but he was able to make money with Tommy Fury. He was able to make money with those other fights he done.
Absolutely. And the wonderful thing is for Jake Paul is he's going to continue to do this. He's going to continue to grab the right opponents at the right time and to continue to make even more money, in my opinion. And he's going to continue to make more groundbreaking moves that's going to help boxing and also be beneficial
because he's going to continue to be a polarizing figure, which means people either love him or hate him. Absolutely. And as long as you have that, you have people who have an opinion about you, and if they have an opinion about you, that means they're interested.
Same, just as you mentioned, the same thing with Floyd Mayweather. More people bought pay-per-views to watch him to lose than to watch him to win, y'all. People wanted him to lose.
If as a boxer, if you don't respect Jake Paul's skill in the sport, at least respect his marketing and his hustle, because there's a lot to be learned from it, and that goes for everybody in the sport. I want to use that to transition into what does this fight specifically happening on Netflix and the viewership that it was able to bring to the sport. What does it mean for the sport of boxing in the grand scheme moving forward?
Well, here's the wonderful thing about this this event, might I say, not boxing fight, this event that happened.
Extravaganza.
It was a spectacle, and it was a massive event. Now, here's the thing. On the undercard, there were quite a few very good fights on that undercard as well that contributed to the entire event becoming successful, in addition to that Paul Tyson fight that was somewhat of a dud. You got the Mario Barrios fight versus Abel Ramos. That was a very good fight.
That's a championship fight at the welterweight division.
And then Amanda Serrano. I can't even.
Huge rematch.
Fights are a classic now. The first fight was a classic. Now this second fight and this monumental event, man, this is just gonna break. It's just going to provide even more opportunities for boxers going down the line.
Yeah. Again, to repeat, that Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor fight had 50 million eyes on it. I had people who don't even watch boxing texting me, man, the women's fight was going crazy.
And that's the beautiful thing about this event that Jake Paul has helped engineer. It has brought more eyes to the sport. Now, are all of them going to stay to watch high, true level boxing where, these fighters that are very high level and facing true competition? Are a lot of them going to stick around to fight, watch these fighters and follow their careers? No, but it is still bringing awareness and putting boxing back into the spotlight where it used to be, like back in the 80s, and where it should be. So
it's a start, and I might be fishing here because what I'm about to say does come a little bit based off rumor, but there could be some truth behind it too, which is that we've seen in the past couple years a lot of networks getting out of the sport of boxing, starting with HBO removed itself from the sport of boxing. Showtime, after having a great year, renaissance year for boxing in 2023, Showtime has removed themselves from boxing. Amazon stepped in a little bit to show a few fights a year, but that's really just on the streaming side. They're not matchmaking and really into the sport like that. So what we're really left with is DAZN. Especially if ESPN decides to get out of it and Top Rank has to go elsewhere, it's going to be DAZN, what little bit of work Amazon does. And now, does Netflix make a play to put themselves into the sport of boxing? It's a possibility that there may be another platform that, you know, these promotional companies in boxing can shop themselves to and possibly show fights with.
Absolutely. And I would love to see that. And obviously it's sad that HBO and Showtime, who I grew up on,
I miss
watching
HBO.
all kind of great fights since I was 7 years old. Beautiful. I before I pursued my dream in baseball, I had dreams of fighting on HBO and Showtime. I truly did, but
you're lucky that didn't come true, because you would have been a perfect candidate for a check hook.
Anyway, but it's good that these streaming giants are now coming into play, and hopefully, like I said, the opportunity is to obviously entertain the people. But for me personally, I advocate for the fighters. So it's just, for me, the best thing about it is just provides more opportunities for the fighters, provides more opportunities to make bigger paydays than, you know, boxers usually make in the past. So that's the biggest thing that I'm hoping that's going to move forward. And I'm hoping Amazon Prime and PDC come out with a lot more shows, because what they've been doing has, unfortunately, has not been. The shows have been great.
It just hasn't been consistent. You know, they've been giving it. They give us a couple great shows, but then it's like, man.
Absolutely, the HBO and Showtime fights. They used to, obviously they had championship. They had HBO After Dark, Showbox.
Yeah.
What happened to all prospect versus prospect fights? You know, top contender fights. You know.
Yeah, at this point with Amazon and the PBC cards, absolutely, if you're not one of the top 5 fighters in the program, you're not gonna get seen.
If you're not in the top 10 pound for pound, or if you're not a champion, the only way you're gonna get on those kind of networks is being an opponent for one of those fighters that you're supposed to face, which obviously you're going to be set up in the counter.
You're going to be set up to lose. It's it's
an opportunity, but it's a very hard opportunity to convert into a win. But a lot of people still do it. Yeah. Which is the beautiful thing about boxing. Anybody from anywhere in the world can become a world champion.
Yeah.
If you work and put your mind to it.
Coming out of this event, obviously we know Mike Tyson's 58 years old. He did mention he may not be done, but whether he is or not, he should be. Respectfully, Mike, we love you, but we don't need to see this no more.
Mike got paid.
Mike got paid. He got his bread. He got his bread.
Listen to me. If Mike gets paid another 10 to 15 million again, I would box too.
Josh, Mike is.
You don't know Mike.
Jake was pulling his punches for Mike.
I understand that.
As he should. I respect him for doing it. Mike didn't need to be hit with your full power. He's 58.
He needed that 20 million.
Which is fine. Get your 20 million, but do the dances, do the song and dance, and get up out of there. We don't need you to come back and do that again.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me say that Jake Paul, you better not face another 58-year-old man. Every person from here on out going forward better be a world-class, or at least, if not world-class, a competent professional boxer that can give you some kind of work and help you develop and grow. Because that's where you are. You're about 5 to 8 fights away from, like I said, where you want to be as a world-class fighter to possibly challenge for a title. Now, you do have Artur Beterbiev calling you out, so... Who's
not far from your weight, you know.
Absolutely.
And you answered my question.
Jake Paul fights at 200 pounds. Artur Beterbiev is 175.
Yeah. And that's what I was just about to ask you next, what's Jake Paul's future? Because you got people like Artur Beterbiev calling you out. Now, Jake Paul, you better never take that fight, brother. I know you got a little bit of weight on him, but that's one of the most powerful punchers. He's fighting at 175. He's the undisputed champion, top 5 pound for pound in the world. That's not something you play with. You not ready for that. First of all,
you want to be a champion.
Get your lick back versus Tommy Fury first. I mean, you haven't fought many real boxers. The ones you fought, you lost.
That would be, in my opinion, and for Jake Paul's next move, I think he should look at that. Either a rematch with Tommy Fury. Or
hold on a second. Your favorite boxer has spoken, said that he potentially won't smoke with Jake Paul. Andre SOG Ward.
No, not Andre SOG Ward. Don't do that.
SOG, what if he won his 20 million? That's undefeated. He retired undefeated.
You know what? Andre SOG Ward, I would actually have no problem with you coming back and taking 20 million. We can do that.
Hey, now that would we love to see that? We would love to see that.
SOG Ward fight. I would go to that fight.
I would go to that fight too.
Now that is Andre SOG Ward, who was number 2 pound for pound for years behind Floyd Mayweather, and who was pound for pound number 1 after beating Kovalev twice.
And retired undefeated.
Absolutely, won the Super 6 at 168 pounds.
We'll see.
Walk through a gauntlet.
Yeah.
Of Arthur Abraham. Y'all don't even know who that German man is.
That's the son of God, Andre, son of God.
Mikel Kessler at the Oracle Arena in Oakland. When Mikel Kessler was a doll and a world champion. People don't even know that.
He brought championship level boxing to his hometown in Oakland. He brought it to the town.
Absolutely.
Last point before we get out of here on this topic. The previous high gate in Texas for a fight was Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders, which I was actually at that fight randomly, which was a $9 million gate.
You a lie.
I was at that fight. I was in Dallas visiting my boy Zay, and we was kicking it on his couch. He said, turn the fight on. I said, where this fight at? He said, Arlington. Oh, that's 20 minutes. Let's go. Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders was the previous high, was $9 million. Tyson and Jake Paul doubled it with $18 million. So the biggest star in boxing today, Canelo, is not able to put up the numbers that Jake Paul is able to put up. Well, with a Mike Tyson caveat on it. So Jake Paul doing his thing. Y'all boxers, man, y'all look thirsty calling him out. I understand y'all want the payday, but y'all just further cementing. But listen, they are further cementing this man at his stature.
The reason we get in this game as fighters is to take care of our families. What is wrong with calling a man out to make $20 million? I don't care who he is or where he comes from.
And that's
like I said, you have an undisputed Arthur Beterbiev calling.
I wonder why.
Calling a child out.
That money talk.
A child in boxing that he sees as easy
money talk. I ain't mad at him. But that's all we got for this one. We'll come get back with us next time inside the Chamber of Truth.